to be a teacher? How important is it to be a teacher? God had one son. He was a teacher. We have many teachers that are here today. We have those that teach in public school. We have those that teach in private school. We have those that teach in preschool, daycare situations. We have those who teach in various colleges and universities. We have those that teach spiritual truths in Bible school, Bible classes. We have those that are administrators, those that are supervisors, those that make good decisions, both in the secular education world and also in the church education area. And I want to say to you on behalf of this church, thank you for all you do to let your light shine, to be the third parent for many of these children, to bless them, to encourage them, to love them, to demonstrate Jesus Christ to them. And this congregation is literally filled to the brim with people that love children, with people that have made sacrifices in order to teach children. Many of you have made financial sacrifices to be teachers of children and teachers of young adult and college settings. Many of you have made sacrifices of your time to be teachers in our Bible curriculum program here at Tuscumbia. Again, on behalf of the congregation, on behalf of the community that you enhance, thank you. What I'd like to do is to ask in just a moment, all of you who are in any way involved in the education of people, whether it be teaching in this church, in our program here, or whether it be teaching out there or administrating, and even if you have retired from, and even if you are a sub in this profession, like to ask you to now all stand for just a moment. Just stand up so we can see how many folks we have here. Remain standing. Remain standing. Now I know your names. Retired folks, stand up. Dale, elbow Marcia, tell her to stand up. I know she's not over there. All right, well stand up for her, Dale. All right, look around and see how many folks we have in this. Thank you very much. Aren't we blessed? Let's pray for these people. Bow with me, please. Father, thank you for the extraordinary number of people in this house today who teach public, who teach private, who teach in universities, who teach in our Bible study program at this church, who teach our adults, who teach our smallest children, who really do love children and love the young adults and the others that they try to enrich and bless and encourage. We're just so overwhelmed by the sacrifices that these folks make. And they enter these professions knowing that there are sacrifices to be made, knowing that there will often be days where they are unappreciated and talked about and criticized and underpaid. And we're thankful, Father, that they step up anyway and that they are such a great example of your Son, that they radiate Christianity, that they refresh these children, that oftentimes they truly are the only Jesus these people ever see. And so, God, we thank you for teachers. We thank you for the master teacher, the Rabbi Jesus, who came and showed us how to teach and how to love and how to be patient in spite of. And surely no one made sacrifices like he has. And we're grateful that he showed us the way to humbly be a servant of all. We know, Father, that surely there must be a special crown for those who teach, for those who encourage teachers, for those who learn at the feet of good teachers. I'm thankful, God, for the good teachers that you put in my life. From the earliest days, those that loved me, those that were patient with me, those that helped me learn my ABCs, but especially those that helped me learn about Jesus. And Father, we're thankful for people who make us the people we are. We ask your continued blessing moving forward, that this will be the best year our teachers have ever had, our students, our children have ever had. This will be the best year in our Bible curriculum program here at Tuscumbia that we've ever had. And God, we know it begins with you, and we ask your blessing. Father, again, thank you for loving us. Thank you for giving us the privilege of worshiping you and worshiping the teacher Jesus today. It is in Jesus we pray. Amen. We have been studying lately about the fact that in our culture, in our society, there are some lessons that are good that we need to learn, particularly in the school environment. There are some lessons that are good, that are important. We need to learn these things. But we've also been noting in some of our lessons lately that in the school environment, in society in general, and some of that, of course, creeps into our families, maybe starts in our families. Some of that also creeps in our congregations. There are some lessons that we need to toss away, that we do not need to embrace. I've referenced it like we'd be eating fish. We need to eat the good flesh, the good meat, and we need to toss. We need to discard the bones. Like when we're eating peanuts, we need to eat the nut and discard the shell. So when we go to work, right, there are good things to learn there. There are good things to do. There are good things to get, but there's some things to toss, some things to discard. When we go to school, there are some good things to embrace, to gather up, to be blessed by, but there are some things obviously to toss away, right? And even in our home, right, there's some things maybe that can get into our homes that shouldn't be in our homes, because they get in our homes, they get in our hearts, and we need to toss these things. We need to embrace the good. Remember what Paul said to the church at Rome: we abhor, we hate those things that are evil, but we cleave, we embrace, we hang on to those things that are good. And that's our challenge. That's our challenge. Whether we're in school, whether we're at work, in the house, in the community, wherever we may be, and God sends good things in our direction, good lessons, we need to learn them, we need to cling to them. When the devil sends those bad bones to us, those things that can wreck us and ruin us, and wreck and ruin maybe those that love us, we need to get as far from those things as we possibly can. One passage that comes to my mind that is really helpful as we think about where we are in life and the folks we're around and the good lessons we're exposed to and the bad lessons we're exposed to and the things to embrace and the things to refrain from embracing. I think of 1 Corinthians chapter 10. I'd like for you to look at this just a moment now. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 31. If we could just give everything a test according to this passage, Romans 10:31, and let's just let it be a does this glorify God test. If this glorifies God, let's do this. If it doesn't glorify God, let's not do this. If we don't know whether or not it glorifies God, let's not do this. When in doubt, do without. This is what 1 Corinthians 10:31 says. Therefore, whether you eat, and we do eat, or drink, and we do drink, or whatever you do, and we do a lot of things, notice this, do all to the glory of God. So let's just give our vocabulary, our language a test. Is what I'm saying, is this something that glorifies God? If it glorifies God, let's say it. Let's say it repeatedly. But if it fails to glorify God, let's remove it from our vocabulary. Let's give our wardrobe a test. If what I'm wearing glorifies God, let's wear it. If it doesn't glorify God, let's not wear something like that. Let's think about our attitude. If my attitude glorifies God, let me persist in this great attitude. But if it doesn't glorify God, let me refrain from this. Let me think about the places my feet take me. If my feet is taking me to a place where I can glorify God, I need to go there. But if this is a place I cannot glorify God, I don't need to be in that place. Let's think about our hands. If our hands are doing things that will cause God to be glorified, let's persist in that. But if we, with our hands, are doing things that do not glorify God, let's put those things away. And you get the idea, right? There are other examples I won't get into. But if it glorifies God, let's do it. Let's say it. Let's sing it. Let's pray it. Let's wear it. Let's be it. But if it fails to glorify God, if it fails to bring honor to Him, if we wouldn't want to be doing it or saying it or thinking it or wearing it or being it, when Jesus comes, let's put it away now. The best way to be prepared on that day is to be prepared every day. And one of the best ways to be prepared on this day is to give everything about us this test. Does it glorify God? And let's be people of courage who can put aside anything that doesn't pass that glorify God test. Now, let me say something about the home. It seems to me that that I could be in danger of appearing to be picking on the school environment, because again, kind of the gist of these lessons in school is now in session, and I don't want to overly sell the case that the bad stuff can just be found in the school environment, because the bad stuff can also be found in the home environment. And with that in mind, would you be turning, please, to Psalms 101? Would you be finding Psalm 101? And let's just go through a little exercise here for just a moment while you're finding that passage. Imagine for a moment that you need to hire a babysitter, all right? And so this girl comes to be interviewed by you, and we'll call her name Trixie. I was trying to think of a name that wouldn't offend anybody. Do we have any Trixies in the house? Do I need to change the name? No Trixies. All right, her name is Trixie. We're interviewing Trixie. She's going to be babysitting our children quite frequently, and we say, Trixie, tell us a little bit about yourself. We're interested in learning as much as we can because we're about to trust you with our children. So Trixie says, well, if I'm going to be honest with you, I need to tell you several things. First of all, I smoke a lot. I'm rather addicted to cigarettes, and I'm going to be doing that around your children. Also, I actually chew tobacco. That's kind of an unusual thing for a girl, but I do that, and I'll be doing that around your children. Okay. Now also, I use some harder drugs than that on occasion, some cocaine, some marijuana, and I'll actually be doing that around your children from time to time also. And you're listening to this, you're taking all this in. And she says also, my language isn't what it ought to be. Oftentimes I'll get angry and I'll take God's name in vain. I'll say some really strong words sometimes, and I'm afraid that when I'm around your children, I'll do that also. Well, tell us more about yourself. And we're shocked now what we're hearing. And she says also, you need to know that when I'm around your children, sometimes I'm going to dress in a very provocative, very seductive way, and I'm also going to dance with them on occasion in a very seductive way, a very immoral way, a way that will tempt them to think some things that they shouldn't be thinking. Also, she says that I'm going to be, when I'm around your children, I'm going to try to convince them that abortion is okay. It's just a choice. It's all about my reproductive rights, and I'm going to let them know that it's okay to kill these unborn babies. And now we're really shocked and more shocked and more shocked as we're listening to her. And she tells us, Trixie does, that we're going to, when we expose our children to her, that she's also going to be advancing and bragging to them about this idea of a man being able to marry a man, a woman being able to marry a woman, and it just goes on and on, man. Her wardrobe is going to be trashy. Her mouth is going to be trashy. Her attitude towards God is going to be trashy. She's going to belittle. She's going to make fun of God. She's going to take His name in vain. She's going to do a lot of horrible things. Anybody here going to hire Trixie to keep our babies? Anybody here going to pay her to watch the children? Anybody going to say, come on and you can be our babysitter? Well, of course not. Nobody here is going to be willing to do something like that with our children. We love them. We want to keep them safe, so Trixie doesn't get the job. But if we change Trixie's name to TV, we go from Trixie to TV, then she gets that job. She's hired. We pay for her, don't we? Come into our house, and what does the TV do? What does that idiot box do a lot of the time? Not all the time. There's some flesh, there's some fish, there's some good stuff to get off of television. But there are some bones to avoid, right? But what happens there as we watch a lot of those, and as we watch a lot of the commercials? What is happening there? Right? There's a lot of immodesty that's promoted. There's a lot of profanity that is promoted. God's name is frequently taken in vain, as you know. There is an advancement of abortion rights, homosexual rights. There is a lot of sleeping of people together who are not married to each other. There's a lot of drug usage there. There's just a lot of sin that is presented in a very entertaining way. And we understand, right, that these people are paid lots of money to look good, and they've got well-written scripts, many of them, and the music and the cinematography, the camera work, Everything is in such a professional way that it kind of sucks us in, and it can desensitize the strongest Christian. It can cause us to have a more trivial attitude towards sin that breaks God's heart, that Jesus died to save us from. And you know that the average kid is from about age 5 to 18 looking about 18,000 hours of television. And we're somewhat naive to think that I can watch it for hour after hour after hour. I can be entertained by it, apparently, or I'm not watching it. Okay, that's why I watch it, because it's fun, because it entertains me. I can be entertained by watching sins being committed and portrayed in a glamorous, fashionable way, and say that doesn't affect me, that doesn't get into my heart on any level. That's preposterous. And if we wouldn't allow Trixie, the babysitter, to come in and do those things in our living room with our children, then why would we allow the television to come in, and we put the television in the most prominent places in our home? What room is your television in? That's the room you spend a lot of time in, and in the bedroom, right? I'm not being anti-television. If you're hearing that, I'm not presenting it very eloquently. I'm anti the bones that are on television. I'm anti the bad stuff. And I'm saying just consistency demands that if we wouldn't bring in a babysitter to do those things, that we don't need to allow television to be a glorified babysitter for us or for our children. Now, that also, consistency will demand then, if I'm going to say my children can't be watching this stuff, then they don't need to walk through the room and see Daddy watching this stuff. And again, not to just pick on television, we could say this about some of the music that we listen to, some of the music we sing along to. I mean, there's a world out there, there's a culture out there that is full of stuff that is unhealthy for those of us who are seeking to be the children of God. And we need to occasionally, at least, make an unpopular choice, an inconvenient choice, a difficult choice, a choice that others may not understand. But it is a choice that helps keep us pure. It is a choice that helps us to pass this test, that if it glorifies God, I'll watch it. I'll listen to it. I'll sing it. I'll do it. I'll wear it. I'll be it. But if it doesn't glorify God, I'm going to get as far away from it as I possibly can. So I ask you to look at Psalm 101. How did David know about television so long ago? But it sure sounds like he knew something of it when you get to Psalm 101. All right, Psalm 101, verse 1. Stay with me now. I will sing of mercy and justice to you, O Lord. I will sing praises. I will behave wisely in a perfect way. Oh, when will you come to me? Now notice this verse 2. I will walk within my house with a perfect heart. That's an important place to have a perfect heart, isn't it? In the home. Verse 3. Is he talking about television here? I will set nothing wicked before my eyes. Now remember, his eyes had gotten him in trouble earlier, so he's learned a lesson. And he's trying to help us learn a lesson as well. I will set nothing wicked before my eyes. I tell you, church, friends, we know this. If we'll all sign our name to that statement, our world will be a better world. Our homes will be better. Our congregations will be better congregations if we will set nothing wicked before. Why would David make such a statement? Because he knows from experience, if you set something wicked before your eyes, you're going to be more inclined to do something wicked with your body, with your life. Again, seeing wicked things repeatedly, again, tends to desensitize us to the wickedness of the thing we're watching. Okay? You think for just to do this exercise just a moment in your mind. Think right now, what's your favorite movie? What's your favorite movie? Did it glamorize sin? Did it desensitize sin? Did it trivialize sin? I'll throw out one from my generation that some Christians have seen and have bragged about. It was called Pretty Woman. Pretty Woman. I've seen people brag on that movie. Oh, I'm watching this on TV again. You know what that movie is about? Am I sounding like a dinosaur up here? Some of you looking at me like I'm a dinosaur. Thad, I'm not a dinosaur. He's shrugging now. Don't be shrugging on me, Thad. I mean, how can I be entertained by watching a movie about a prostitute sleeping with a fella getting paid lots of money? Hello? I know. I know. Good-looking people, good music, romantic. It's a romantic story, Jeff. Come on. Oh, there are other examples of that. I'm just saying, let's be careful. I'm saying, and listen, well, David's saying it too, isn't he? I'll set nothing wicked before mine eye. I hate the work of those who fall away. It shall not cling to me. Verse 4, a perverse heart shall depart from me. I will not know wickedness. Whoever secretly slanders his neighbor, him will I destroy. The one who has a haughty look and a proud heart, him will I not endure. By the way, many of those folks that are entertaining us, they're slandering God. We recognize that. When someone takes God's name in vain, they're slandering God. We get that, right? And they're slandering those who follow God. Look at verse 6. Mine eyes shall be on the faithful of the land, that they may dwell with me. He who walks in a perfect way, he shall serve me. Now, a 2014 Jeff translation of that would be, I'm not just content with getting rid of the bad television shows or the bad music or the bad lyrics or the bad books or the bad websites or the badly behaving people. I'm replacing them. I'm filling my life with good people, with good television shows, with good music, with good activities, right? Probably none of us are strong enough to just remove from our lives the bad without replacing it with something good. Okay? They're good things. They're good people. There are some good television shows. Not many, but there are a few. Notice verse 7. He who works deceit shall not dwell within my house. He who tells lies shall not continue in my presence. So let's not be entertained by folks who lie either, okay? Early I will destroy all the wicked of the land, that I may cut off all the evildoers from the city of the Lord. Read Psalm 101 with your family. We parents, we've been encouraged right from this pulpit and many other places. Let's have family devotionals. Let's have discussions. And sometimes discussions are difficult because they require change. I will admit, I do not like to change. Am I the only one? Probably not. Probably not. But sometimes change can be healthy. Change can be good for us. It can be absolutely essential for us if we're going to be the God-glorifying people that we need to be. In talking about school is now in session, we've mentioned in previous lessons that the school environment, society, television, culture in general, maybe some of the folks we run with can try to teach us that the outside person is more important than the inside of a person. Dwelt on that at length. We've also talked about how various culture influences around us can try to teach us. The school environment can teach us also that modesty does not matter. Talked about that at great lengths. The Bible reminds us that modesty matters. The inside person is a lot more important than the outside person. Number 3, we've studied how in the school environment and culture in general, some folks maybe we work with, we play with, they can try to teach us that morality doesn't matter. Of course, we know from God morality does matter. And now I just want to mention for a couple of minutes or so something else that's really important. That society tries to teach us, that the school environment can try to teach us, that our buddies can try to teach us, that television can try to teach us, that the entertainment industry in general can teach us, maybe even some folks in our family can teach us, that sin is fun and funny. Sin is fun, sin is funny. Christianity in comparison is dull, it is dry, it's not something that really we need to be looking forward to doing or getting involved in. Maybe Christianity is for the older folks, and we'll live our lives while we're young, and we'll do our thing while we're able to do our thing, and then when we get older and more broken down and we can't have that much fun out there anyway doing those sinful things, we think, then maybe we'll become a more spiritual person. By the way, have you noticed this, that an ungodly 15-year-old is usually an ungodly 50-year-old? I mean, it's hard to outgrow ungodly. Bible repeatedly reminds us of this great truism that those who seek me early shall find me. If we wait till tomorrow, we're waiting too late. We know this, of course, but let's acknowledge something about sin. Let's just be honest. That for most folks who sin does begin in a fun way. It does begin in a rather enjoyable way. Why is Moses able to be listed in the great Hall of Fame of Faith of Hebrews chapter 11? Well, several reasons, but one reason he gets to be listed there is because he learned early on that sin, even though it can be pleasurable, even though it can be fun, is something you need to avoid. Remember Hebrews 11:25, it brags on this choice that Moses made, where he chose to suffer afflictions with the people of God rather than enjoy the pleasures of sin. And then notice this, for a season. For a season. That teaches us what we already probably know about sin, that maybe the first few moments of it is enjoyable, it may be refreshing, maybe liberating. But that fun, that enjoyment, we know this, it doesn't last, right? We know, as Moses says, it's just a seasonal thing. It's a very temporary thing. It's a very fleeting thing. But have you noticed that the consequences of sin are not so temporary? They're not so fleeting. They may even be eternal in nature, right? May I ask you to think about what area is your greatest weakness, and I'll think about mine. And I'm just going to assume that whatever your greatest area of weakness, your sin that you may have given, now hopefully you've whipped it long ago, but you think back to that sin, it probably was something that was enjoyable to you. It was something that was fun. It was something maybe that your buddies did, right? And that's maybe how we got into it. You know, if every time we sin we got punched in the nose, we probably wouldn't commit that particular sin any longer. So let me ask you to think about your particular sin or category of sins that you've hopefully now been forgiven of and washed and all that. But was that a sin that brought you so much lasting fun that you would really consider jeopardizing your eternal salvation? Would you say, okay, in doing this, yes, there is some pleasure, there is some fun, and it is so much fun that I am really willing to pay with my eternity for this. I'm willing to sacrifice my eternal soul for the joy, for the temporary joy that I get from this. This particular thing is so much fun. If it means I'm going to go to hell for doing it, then I'll just have to go on to hell because this is so much fun. Now, is there a sin that is that much fun? That is that much lasting fun? That if given a choice, I would choose hell over heaven? See, I think about my life, just being transparent with you, thinking about my sins that I've committed. They weren't that much fun. Weren't that much fun. Were yours? I think about the Gospel of Luke, chapter 15. I think about that young man, we call him the prodigal son. He's going to go off into a far country. He's going to have a ball. And I would guess, wouldn't you, that in the early moments of that trip, he was having fun. He had money. He had friends. But it was a seasonal thing. It was a temporary thing. It did not last very long, did it? And then he's in the slop. He's down with the pigs. And if we could interview him now and say, young man, was it worth it? Was it worth the embarrassment? Was it worth the shame? Was it worth what it cost you? Was it worth what it cost your father? He would say no. He would say 1,000 times no, it's not worth it. No sin is that much fun. His is the voice we need to hear. Not the voice of modern culture. Not the voice of many of our buddies who are saying, come on, try it. This is fantastic. You'll love it. And again, maybe at the entrance of it, it's not so terrible. But once we're in it, we're in it. And we're not in it to win it. Think about the next chapter of Luke 16. You got a rich man. I don't know all the sins he committed. Seems like it was a sin of omission. He just didn't do something good for somebody else that he could have done. And I don't know what he was rationalizing and why he didn't do this good deed, but I know he paid an extraordinarily high price for his sinful choices. You know, what does he say? Luke 16:24. Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus, may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. Were your sins worth it? Was the fun that you got from that? Was that a price? You said, well, that was a price I gladly paid because I enjoyed it so much that now I'm in this torment, now I'm in these flames, and that was a good deal. If we could interview that fella, I think he'd be screaming to us. Remember, we wanted to go back and have somebody testify to his 5 brothers and his daddy. Don't do what I did. Don't pay such a high price. No sin is worth it. See, we don't have to do what he did to learn those lessons. We don't have to go to the next life begging for cooling water. We can learn now. What's that saying? If live men knew what dead men know, the entire world will be converted within 24 hours. We don't have to die to know what dead men know. We can be alive and vibrant and know today that no sin is worth what it cost. No sin is that much fun. Many years ago, I was a student at Freed-Hardeman, and we were at a weekend devotional. It was like on a Friday night, and it was a late night devo in the old administration building, and we were singing and listening to somebody talk, and I remember hearing sirens. And when you hear sirens, you always just kind of wonder what's going on. Is it somebody I know? And those particular sirens actually were that night for somebody I knew. He was a player on the baseball team, and he was a good fella. His girlfriend was one of my classmates, and he was a fella that believed in the fun of sin. And that particular night, while many of us were worshiping God and being with good people, he went out with some buddies and having fun, and had a few too many drinks. And you know me, I think one is too many. If 3 make you drunk, 1 makes you a third drunk, and he had a lot more than that. The sounds of the siren, they were going to pick him up. He had rounded a curve, going way too fast, hit a tree, and he lost his life there. I went back to Freed-Hardeman not all that long ago, and I rode down that road just to see if the tree was still there. And that tree for me is kind of like a testimony, if you will. It's just a reminder that sin, it may start out fun, but it doesn't last. It really doesn't. And we all know of heartaches and heartbreaks that people have endured, that people that love those people have endured, because we bought the lie, or they bought the myth, that sin, it is enjoyable not just when we first get into it, but for always. And it's not that way. When you come back tonight, I want to read some letters from some young people that got into sin because they thought it'd be fun, because they thought it'd be cool. And I want you to hear some of their story and how this, you won't see a TV show, you won't see this on a billboard or a magazine cover. They'll glamorize, trivialize, and desensitize. But we need to know, as Paul Harvey used to say, the rest of the story. Sin is never worth the price. It is never worth the price. You remember the story of this girl. She's dating this guy, and probably a guy she shouldn't be dating. He's always trying to get her to do some kind of crazy things, and she's always saying no, no, no. And he says in exasperation, he says, you don't drink, you don't do drugs, you don't go to these wild parties with me, and he lists some other things. He says, what do you do for fun? I love her answer. She said, for fun, I wake up every morning without feeling guilty, ashamed, or embarrassed about anything I did the night before. That's a pretty good life, and we can choose that life. If we can pray with you today about any issues going on in your life, you need to confess some sins that other folks are knowing about, and you're concerned about your reputation, all that can be repaired today. If you're ready to become a New Testament Christian by confessing your belief in Jesus and being immersed into Him for the forgiveness of all sin in obedience to Acts 2:38, being born again of water and the Spirit as Jesus taught it in John 3, verse 3, verse 5, verse 7, the water's ready. The blood of Christ's been ready for a long time. I hope you'll come now while together we stand.